Hi everyone, I'm Ed Victor and you are watching The Voice of Victor here on the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and before we go on with anything else, please make sure you subscribe today. I'll give you a sec. Okay, alright, thank you for subscribing. Anyway, we are up to episode number 11, and episode number 11 is all about, drumroll, female talent. Pretty good idea, huh? Yeah. We're going to be talking with two of the top voice actresses in the business right now, and we're going to be discussing things that were sent in to me from viewer email. Questions like, is it a level playing field out there for female talent versus male talent? Are there a lot of opportunities for female talent? Do we, male versus female, compete against one another? Are there voice trends specific to female talent? So we'll be answering these questions and a whole lot more with two top female voice actresses. In one screen, we'll be talking with Susan Calloway. Susan Calloway is going to be calling in from Detroit, Michigan. And then on the other end, we'll be talking with Julie Slack, and Julie Slack will be calling in from Park City, Utah. So we're going to have these guys give us their opinions on what's going on with female voice talent in the industry right now and what the trends are and what to expect. But first, got to tell you about our sponsor, Auralex. We are brought to you by Auralex. As always, if there's something you need for your home studio, check them out at www.auralex.com. That's Auralex.com. Okay, now on with the show, and let's connect with our two guests. All right, ladies, hello. Thanks for joining me today on The Voice of Victor, and I want to introduce both of you. My left screen is Julie Slack, who's calling in from Park City, Utah, and Susan Calloway, who's calling in from Detroit, Michigan, my old hometown. Thank you very much. And thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. So let's get started. I want to know some of your backgrounds. Who decided we wanted to go first? Susan?
I guess so. I guess I'm the first one. So hello, everyone. My name is Susan Calloway, and I am a voiceover talent, but I actually started in this industry as a singer, and my background is I'm a singer-songwriter, which I've been since I was like 12 years old, and I started my career in this business actually as a singer, and that's how we met actually, Ed.
Right.
Was working as a singer, and I've done tons and tons of...
sang some jingles for me.
I did. I sang, I think it was Spirit Airlines or something. It was kind of one of the first things I ever did. But I, as a singer and a performer, I started getting asked by a lot of the clients I was working with to actually do the voiceover also, because sometimes it's a nice energy to have like the same person reading. And obviously working with producers and working in a studio was something I was very familiar with. So it was a very, very easy transition to do voiceover as well. So that's sort of how I got into the industry. And, and here I am, still doing it.
How long has it been now that you've been doing voiceovers?
I don't know, maybe 10 years or something. Something like that. So, yeah.
So you're a veteran.
Yeah, I guess so. So.
Cool. And Julie, go ahead. What's your background and how long have you been doing this?
Sure. I've been, so my background is originally as only an on-camera actor. Now I do voiceover and on-camera, and that is how I transitioned over. I was, only doing on-camera work. I had some opportunities. I ended up making a demo, and then I ended up getting voiceover work. And then I transitioned into doing a huge part of my business now is voiceover work. I've been doing it for full-time for 12 years. And so I still do it all, but voiceover is a huge chunk.
And you're originally, you went to University of Michigan, yeah?
I did.
See the connection?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty magical. And you ended up moving to Singapore.
Yep. So I was an on-camera actor only in New York and Philadelphia. And then my husband took a job in Singapore. And that is where I had done like literally one voiceover job when I was living in the US at that time. Moved to Singapore. The on-camera opportunities were really limited. I auditioned for a voiceover opportunity, and that ended up snowballing, and we ended up living there for 5 years. And so I built up my portfolio there. There was a ton of work. Who knew? And we moved back. Yeah, we moved back to the US, and I started researching. I didn't even know that this was really a career that someone would have. I thought I was like biding my time as an actor. Moved back to the US, discovered that there are people who are doing this full time, figured out how to make my own studio, and remarketed myself here. And so now I still have clients who are in Asia and Australia. But then I've been building up my US business for a while.
The way we met was you were doing voice work for Lifetime in Singapore.
Yes, of course, right. So I actually live full time in Florida, not too far from you.
Yeah.
And I was the female promo voice of Lifetime in Asia, and you were the male voice. And somehow, I forget how I figured it out, but I was like, wait a second, it couldn't be that this guy who's doing Lifetime Asia happens to live like a half an hour from me.
That's funny.
And then so it was pretty amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, that was a nice meet and greet.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get on with some questions here. I've got questions that were actually sent in to me from some of our viewers. And the first question, if you guys are ready, and again, I want your honest opinions here. Do you think it's a level playing field out there for voice talent, meaning for female voice talent as opposed to male voice talent? Do you think it's equal? Yes or no? And tell me your opinion.
That's a hard question.
That's why it's here.
I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you what, I think there's never, this is sort of, at least in my perspective right now, I think that obviously women offer a certain sort of, we offer a very different perspective on everything, whether it's writing music or singing or a voiceover, because of just being female, because our voices lend to more, there's a warmth sometimes and an intimacy that women, I think, kind of bring with them, just because we are very relational and we're very, and that's something I think a lot of brands and stuff are looking for, especially right now with like the COVID thing. Like I've actually been very busy and a lot of it is because people are looking for that warm kind of like, they almost want everyone to, get a big hug from the voiceover. Not that a male voiceover can't do that, but I think they have really different functions. And so it's really hard. I don't know if you've had some opinions about this, Julie, I'm sure you do, but I don't, and it's hard to tell like if like one's more than the other. I think for certain types of work, it's probably harder. I think there's more promo work like what you do. Yeah. So the promo work, seems to be more guys, but it seems like more and more brands are leaning towards some female. I don't know. I think it's improved. That would be my opinion.
Cool. Julie?
So I would say the same thing about promos and trailers, although I know everyone is insisting that those worlds are opening up and that women have opportunities. I still think that's much slower. I was just laughing to myself because I was thinking, I don't know. I only get auditions for women. That's why
it's hard to tell. It's like,
I guess from my perspective, I get auditions that sometimes they don't know, the client doesn't know what they want. And in that case, it's like when I see we're auditioning female and male, I'm like, oh, okay. So, I that's a good point. I guess you only see the ones that, right?
I only see those, but there have been several times where I have heard back from clients and they're like, I'm so sorry, like meaning maybe the audio engineers or the advertising agencies. So that would be like my, client or the buyer at that point. I have heard back from them saying, we're so sorry, we really wanted you, we really loved it, but the end client really went with a man. They wanted to go with a man. So I've heard that many times.
Oh yeah, I have as well.
And I have as well. They went with a female. So I guess, another question that came in was, do men and women compete against each other for the same job? And yeah, all the time. I mean, I don't think we directly compete, but yeah, it happens all the time, especially now. I think a lot of clients don't know what they want anymore. I'll know it when I hear it is what I get a lot of. So, right? Yeah. I'll move on. The next question. Is there a lot of competition between female voice actresses for the same parts? I mean, do you guys think you guys have the same kind of vocal range? I don't know. I don't know what we'd be looking for.
No, I wouldn't think, I haven't heard a lot of your work, but like just this, I wouldn't say that Susan and I would necessarily be competing for the exact same thing, but for what you were saying, a lot of times clients want to see a whole lot of different types of voices. So yes, but I think there is a lot of competition among everyone.
Are you guys noticing any trends in the business, what they're looking for? Susan, you said something about the female, the empathy, I guess the empathetic voice during the COVID thing right now. So that, I guess that would be a trend, yeah?
Yeah, maybe. I think, well, I mean, the only trend I could think of that maybe I would address with that question is that I think there's always, and I'm sure Julie would agree with this, there's always this request or kind of intention from clients where they don't want a voiceover. They want it to be conversational, like we're just hanging out, or we're at the diner, or at a restaurant, and I'm talking to you about a product, like very casual, very off the cuff. And I think if there was a trend that I would address, it would be like, people don't really want something that's pretentious. We're living in a world now where it's more, we do make decisions relationally. And I think that goes back to like kind of what I was saying about female voices, is that we tend to be, we're kind of like that trusted friend very much, when we do a voiceover. And I think that's, I get a lot of requests for things like that. So I think I bet you do too. So it seems to be, I don't know if that's a trend, maybe, perhaps. So
it's a trend. Well, I guess it's a trend. Julie, what do you say?
I was going to say the same things. I think that it's a request that it's conversational. I also think that there's a trend for this millennial style voice for females, which is a little bit more raspy, a little bit more like you kind of like you're talking like this a little bit. That's exaggerated, but
right. Dude.
Away from there's a perky trend, if you will, which they consider the mom voice, but they don't want it to be too perky, because then that's harking back to some of these, like old style, talking like this, which people think, I have a great peppy voice, I should be in voiceover. And actually, I think adding to that, there is the overall, without it being a trend, the overall import, like level of import in voiceover is the ability to act, which is, so it's really not about just having a nice voice. I get people meet me all the time and they're like, oh, that's what you sound like? And you do this? But I have a background in acting, and Susan, you have a background in singing, and you know how to emote. So there's a lot that goes into creating these styles, so that when you are asked to do something that's a trend, like conversational, you know how to do it. It's not just about the sound of your voice.
There you go. Susan, you just said you started taking acting classes.
I know. Well, you know what? I think that's one of the things in my career that because I do a lot of vocal coaching and artist mentoring as another like side thing that I do in addition to performing and all that. And
sure.
I think that one of the things that we always have to do as performers is always be looking for ways to inspire ourselves and to just keep things fresh. And I think I started doing this especially during the COVID thing, because I thought, well, what can I do right now? Because things are so weird, and how we make a living and everything. What are some things I can do just to work on myself, just to improve? And I think that's so important, no matter how good you are or how much success you have. To always be looking for ways to grow. And it's helped me a lot. It's been great to get a fresh perspective and to be challenged in a new way, to just get another person's kind of input of like things you can do better. And I don't have an acting background. I mean, I've taken a little bit of acting and stuff, but not anywhere near like Julie has. And that is a huge component of being able to do this job well. So being able to have those chops and being able to sort of, be able to tap into them. I mean, it is like singing, but there are still some differences. And then feeling comfortable with that, because I still feel way more comfortable singing something for somebody versus having to do a voiceover that maybe is completely different than my normal thing that I do. You know what I mean? Like there's less versatility, and I'm wanting to always grow and expand that and be like, well, how can I become more versatile? So I do feel comfortable, doing a different character or doing a different type of read in this way. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. Do you guys do any character work?
I don't so much.
Julie, okay. Susan, you don't either. Okay. All right.
I mean, there's people that are so good at that stuff that it's like, I think it's really, I don't know how Julie feels, but like, I know there's people that are so great at it that you're like, even though I'm sure I could mimic a few little like voices here and there, it's like,
right.
Oh.
Okay.
Well,
I interrupted you. I'm sorry, Julie. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
no, I was just going to add, because like I think that we're straying a little bit, or I'm straying a little from the original question, but I think it all builds on it.
Okay.
Again, the original question was talking about trends, right? So in thinking about this, I think we all get a variety of auditions every day. There are days where I have 10, 15 auditions, and they are all asking me for something different. So they're not asking me so I'm switching between having to do a conversational read and then a deep empathetic read and then an announcer read and all these things. So to your point, Susan, like that's where it requires this agility and flexibility to it's not just about the sound of your voice, it's being able to turn on a dime and have this flexibility to do those different types of specs, they're called, which many of them are trendy, if you will, because it used to be that the trend was to only have an announcer type voice. And now there's still, of course, a place for that, but now there's all these different gradations of types of style that are being requested. And you have to be able to know how to be facile, switch.
For sure.
Right.
Good point.
No, excellent point.
I know you're getting all your auditions because I'm getting them too.
Are we competing against each other?
No.
Yeah, really.
Unless you're reading for Major League Baseball, I don't think so. Or the NFL. But hey, you never know.
You never know.
You never know. Maybe you are. The future of the voice industry. Let me precurse that. Have either one of you been in a recording studio in the last 6 months?
Other than mine, no.
Okay. Julie, no? Okay, so to me, I guess that leads to the future of this business. So you guys both have home studios.
Yes.
Yes. And that's kind of the new normal.
It is.
I mean, I guess if you're going to make a living at this, it is.
For a lot of newer people, they do not understand. But I mean, I've been seeing auditions that say specifically, if you don't have a home studio, don't bother. So,
and I think the future of this is not. Is my connection okay?
No, you're fine. Keep going.
Okay. The future of this is not just about having a microphone that you plug into your computer.
Right.
I think that's a big kind of fallacy. The future of this is you need to be really serious about this business, and therefore you need to make a significant investment in a high quality studio, because not only are you going to be recording your auditions in there, but you are going to be recording jobs. And you're going to be recording jobs where you need to be able to connect with the audio production studios who are sitting there connecting to clients. And you're going to be having very high level clients listening in. And what I've been hearing is all of a sudden, we've all had these studios. The three of us, I believe, have had these studios for a while now. We're used to this. What has happened with COVID is apparently there are a lot of people like in bigger cities who have been successful voice actors, but didn't have to do that because they only went into studios, and they're really playing catch up. And so what I'm seeing is happening is you're also, not only are they coming into this, there's just no room in this industry in the future of it for poor sound quality. So don't even try to play if you don't know how to have a successful, easy session with like the head, creative director at an agency, because that's like a lot of pressure. And but it doesn't mean that audio production studios are out of it, because we still need them to like sweeten all the audio, and so it needs to go through them. But I think there's less, it's opening the doors for people across the country, which is great, because none of us live in New York or LA.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
So it's opening those doors, but it also means that talent need to be competing. If you're serious about this, you need to be competing at a very high level from your home.
Right.
Great advice.
I totally agree with everything you said.
Okay. Well, we're all on the same page. I couldn't agree more. When I was with AVO, not mentioning old agents, but they were letting people audition on their phones. And I'm like, how is,
Oh, that's funny.
how can you, how can you even compete? I just thought, I
Right.
said, you guys are insane. So anyway, that's a whole nother show.
Right. Right.
Okay. And because time is of the essence, man, we've already gone 20 minutes already. Uh, do you have any tips to share? Any inside tips?
You go first. Well, I echo Julia, you said some really good stuff, which I think you're probably going to reiterate, I'm sure, in your tips. I mean, I agree. This is a hard business, like anything in entertainment, and you need to you need to know that going in, that there's a ton of competition, and you do need to make a big investment, and you need to take the time to have really good reels. You need to, have really good equipment, and a really good microphone is also part of that.
Right.
Learn how to use it well so that you feel comfortable when you're doing sessions. I mean, that's really important because, I've had the advantage of being a music background, and I have like Pro Tools, and I do a lot of music production. So doing this was very, very simple for me. There was a very low, like, this is really basic compared to the stuff I do with music. So I've had to, because I engineer with my own, and produce music. So any of the experience like that is definitely in your, having that in your wheelhouse is really helpful. But I think also just to keep a really good attitude, because it is a really, in addition to being, getting all your technical stuff together, I think it's really important to keep a good attitude, because anytime you're in a field, I think that's highly competitive, it's really easy to quit and to give up really, easily, because like if you're, maybe you don't have the right agent, or maybe you're still learning, or maybe it's just that you have to grow into your sound or whatever. I mean, there can be a million reasons why you don't get success right away. And I think if there's anything I've learned in my career, is that it's just so important to stick with things too, and to not get discouraged, because we live in a society now where everything is so, we're very like quick fix, man. We want success right now. And especially a lot of younger kids, they get out of school or whatever, and they're like, well, I should immediately be making six figures. And it's like, well, that's just not how it works. You know what I mean? And you've got to like be willing to work hard, and be willing to also build good relationships. That would be my third suggestion is, I still think our industry is very relationship oriented, and it takes time to really build relationships. I think please and thank you will get you everything in life. Joan Rivers said it, and I believe it too. But I think it's really, really important to, give quality to that, to think about that, of like thinking long term. And just because someone can't maybe hire you for a giant job right now, they could be a huge creative director in 5 years. And you know what I mean? So you want to always be nice to everyone, and remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So
Good.
that is the end of my advice.
All right, here we go for it. Anything to add to that?
I strongly believe in relationship building. I think that's such a huge part of any business, and I totally agree. And this applies to me, Susan, for both voiceover and on camera, because oh my gosh, 9 times out of 10 you're not booking an audition. 9.5 times out of 10 you're not booking an audition. But what you always want to book is the room. And so in like on camera terms, that just means like, showing up and showing the casting director or your agent or whatever that you're doing a good job. And usually that's got to be enough. And then if you book these jobs, that's icing on the cake. One tip that I feel really strongly about, because I know a lot of our audience is interested in either getting into voiceover or potentially like growing their voiceover career. And so I do want to keep this positive, but it's important to, I know, all three of us. And that is to make sure that you really study and understand rates, because a lot of people when they are starting out in particular, like they might be uncomfortable charging something, charging a particular rate. And so I think it's really important to reach out to people who've been in the industry. It's something that I did when I moved back to the US, because the rates
You and I talked about that early on, right?
The rates were so different from Asia than they were here. And so, yes, I talked to you, I talked to a couple of other people because I didn't know how to do it. And the reason that that's really important is because if I'm out there, only charging X amount, but it really should be this, it only brings the industry down. And it's already difficult because this is an artistic industry, right? And so we want to make sure that you're always kind of charging the right thing, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, like, oh, I've only been doing this for a few months, I don't deserve it. No, there are standards, there are rate standards. Take the time to learn those, to make sure that it helps everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Great point. I love it. Great advice from two pros. Anything else to add? Because I think we covered every question that was sent in, and I think there's a lot of good info here.
Awesome.
So with that, I'm going to bid you farewell. Friday. It's.
All right.
I think it's just about cocktail time here in
Almost.
here in Florida. It is. Yeah, I think so. But thanks, you guys, for taking the time, and oh my God, I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for having us. It was fun.
Thanks for being had. And that's going to wrap up episode number 11. I'd like to thank my guests, Susan Calloway and Julie Slack. Great show today. But don't worry, there's another great show coming your way. Episode 12 is going to be all about whether or not you need an overseas talent agent. We'll be talking with my talent agent overseas in Sydney, Australia, Catherine Scott. She's slated for the next show. It's going to be a good one as well. So again, we are brought to you by Oralex. Make sure you check them out at www.oralex.com. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. And if you didn't subscribe earlier, make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss any of the great content. Thanks for watching.